AM 560, The Answer.
The content and information on Real Estate Airwaves is for informational purposes only and should not be regarded as legal advice. Real Estate Airwaves does not provide legal advice and make no warranty or representation regarding the information on the show. Real Estate Airwaves shall not assume any liability for damages of any kind whatsoever relating to the use, misuse, or reliance of this information. The listener should conduct their own investigations, analysis, due diligence, draw their own conclusions, and make their own decisions. Any areas concerning taxes or specific legal or technical questions should be referred to lawyers, accountants, consultants, brokers, or other professionals licensed, qualified, or authorized to render such advice.
No fluff, no hype, no gurus. You're listening to Real Estate Airwaves on AM 560, The Answer. Get the inside information you need to find, fund, fix, and flip real estate in today's market. Joshua Ingalls and Vincent Pace share their secrets to minimize risk, maximize profit, and get deals done. We're pulling the curtain back and sharing the knowledge you need to succeed in real estate. And now, your hosts, Joshua and Vincent.
Thanks for tuning in. Today, we are going to be talking about how to estimate your construction costs. And by the end of this episode, we're going to give you the tools necessary that you can actually go out and pretty accurately estimate your construction costs. The number here is 855-5-AIRWAVES, or you can visit realestateairwaves.com. My name is Joshua Ingalls. I'm an active real estate investor. Over the last 3 years, I've flipped over 60 fix and flip deals. I'm also an active real estate broker with United Real Estate.
And I'm Vincent Pace. I head up Barnett Real Estate Investment Finance. We provide short-term capital for real estate investment transactions.
Now, construction, this, in my opinion, is the most difficult part of any deal. And when I meet investors, I always try to find out their experience level. So I like to ask people, what do you think the most difficult part of doing deals is? Is it finding deals? Is it raising money to do deals? Or is it construction? And if somebody says finding deals or money, this is usually a good indication that they might not have done a deal yet, because construction is always something that can be difficult. And so it's very important to understand your costs of construction, and that's why this episode is very, very important. So take notes. We're going to be covering a lot of information.
Constructions are absolutely the place where costs can grow, where delays can happen, and doing it at a low cost and in a short time frame is kind of the goal. So this is where a lot of problems can happen. We see it, among our borrowers. When our borrowers have a deal that's going a little wrong, it's usually because something happened bad with the contractor, or the city caught them doing something they shouldn't have been doing, and now they've got to redo something. It's these kinds of problems that come in, and they're largely in the construction process.
Yeah, I always say if you buy it right and you do the construction right, you can screw everything else up and still make a lot of money. So remember that. Buy it right and manage the construction and handle that construction process as best you can.
So first question to look at when you're trying to figure out how much your costs are going to be is just the basic question of, well, what should we actually do to the property? And the answer to that is generally just going to be simply whatever's needed to match similarly priced comps. So for a fix and flip, that means you're going to be looking at nearby rehab properties with similar square footage and bed bath count. So you're trying to match them as closely as possible and just seeing what was done in those properties. If you're doing something less than what's in those comps, they're probably not comps for you at all, and you probably should be looking at other properties.
Yeah, and you want to know what's in the comps. So look at the comps, look on the MLS. If you don't have access to the MLS, you can look on third-party websites like Redfin, Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com. Even after the home sells, a lot of times you can get access to these pictures. And even better is maybe you want to have a broker. Let's say a property is for sale in the neighborhood, or it's about to go under contract. Take a tour with your realtor. Get in the car, drive around the neighborhood, look at these comps. Maybe you can't get in, but you can look at the outside and see what that house is. Is it comparable in square footage? What are the finishes? Does that house have fiber cement siding and you're trying to do vinyl siding? These are all very important things you need to consider.
Yeah, if you've got a good realtor who works with you as an investor, they'll know this activity where they take you around to properties that are basically your competing properties. you can also reach out to a local broker, and it's, you're kind of saying, hey, I'm interested in these properties without, actually being interested in them. So be cautious of that kind of time waste. I mean, I feel like if you do that with somebody, you should probably be looking to make sure that they're going to get a deal from you at some point.
Yeah, and the things you want to look into, for example, I mentioned the siding, what's the bedroom, bathroom count of the comp that you might be, or the comps that you're using? Do they have a finished basement? Do they not have a finished basement? Here in the suburbs, a finished basement doesn't bring you a lot of value, but in the city of Chicago, you better have a finished basement because many times the comps have those and your values go up substantially. What's the parking situation on the comps? Do they have a 2-car garage and you don't have a garage at all? That's going to be a pretty big determining factor on what you can sell your home for. What are the countertops on the other property? These are all things you need to really look at when you're evaluating what needs to be done to your home.
I mean, in short, you're really going through everything and seeing what comparable properties have in them. Is everybody using the same sort of appliances? Then you probably want to use those too. Light fixtures, color and type of finishes. I mean, really, these are the things that are proven as being sold in the market. So those are the things you want to focus on. So now that you've kind of got an idea, you've looked at some comps, you've looked at pictures on the internet, maybe you've gone and visited some yourself. Should you leave something out that the comps have? Well, again, if you're not matching the comps, they may not actually be your comps. So if they match except one or two things, you may need to ding down the price. So these are the kinds of things you'll need to consider. And it may just be that your property doesn't match the comps because it can't match the comps. There's something that you're missing that the other comps have, and there's no way to add it. So in those cases, you've got to adjust accordingly. Then beyond that, the other end of that is, should you add something additional? Well, generally, no, but there's sort of a balance there that you want to think about. So the cost of the item versus the benefit. Will each additional dollar spent increase the value of the property by at least $1? So if it increases by at least $1, you're going to scratch. Now, why would you want to do something where you're going to scratch and make no additional money? Well, maybe it'll sell quicker. You're going to want something like that will bring the benefit and make it worthwhile. Cosmetic upgrades generally aren't going to push the property up much. And a broker in the area can probably help you figure out which of these kinds of upgrades where, you may be making dollar for dollar, but they'll sell it quicker. Which upgrades you want to think about.
Yeah, sometimes you can do what I call sizzle features, and you want to make sure your home has some sizzle to it. Now, what are sizzle features? This is something you can do to your property, make it maybe to stand out versus some of the other rehab homes in the area. For example, I like using the industrial kitchen faucets. Now, that might cost me an extra $100 to do, and believe me, it's not going to sell my house for any more than those other houses that I'm trying to compete against, but people love those faucets, and we always get a lot of great feedback for having them. So having something like that, having a sizzle feature, sometimes you can find sizzle features that don't cost you a lot of money.
And we've got some examples that come to mind among our borrowers. We had one borrower, they found this really nice-looking wall-mounted sort of fireplace thing. It wasn't actually, I don't even know how it was even made, but it looked like a fireplace, and you plugged it in, and it made this great feel, and it was actually warm, and it just added a lot to the room, and I think it cost them $80 or something like that. Another borrower actually put a Murphy door to hide their utility room in the basement, which was really cool. So a Murphy door is like a bookshelf that opens up, and it's actually a door. And you go through this bookshelf in their basement wall, and suddenly there's the heater, and there's all the mechanicals that they were trying to hide. That was a feature that really made the property stand out. We have another borrower whose signature feature is reclaimed barnwood. So they'll have some feature somewhere in the house where they use this reclaimed barnwood to give their property sort of a signature sizzle feature that seems to be very popular in the market right now.
So was that heater one of those Amish heaters?
I don't think it was Amish.
Oh, that's the biggest scam. I've bought one of those Amish heaters, and I looked at where it was made, and it was made in China. It was not.
Not many Amish in China.
I hope they're not sponsoring this segment, but the final tip we're going to give you is really check the finishing websites for. You really want to make sure, is the trim. Is it, if people go into the house and the trim's not level or it's unaligned and that sort of thing, people will take that into consideration. If the quality is really sloppy, it can affect your resale value. You may have all the same features that these other homes done, but if it has very, very poor craftsmanship, your resale value will suffer.
And there's a level of craftsmanship at different levels. You know, the level of matching joints and things like that at cheaper properties is just not going to be as valued as a property that's selling for, 10 times that. If you're at 150 and you're at 1.5 million, there's a big gap there in terms of the level of sort of perfection people expect. One final tip that we can throw out there is that you can look on actual design websites, finishings websites, and look for highly selling and highly rated items. We have borrowers who do this, and what they're actually doing is they're looking for features that are sort of at the forefront of the market. So they're not in comps yet, but the sales are already showing that this is something that's popular, or people are giving this a high rating. So you're probably going to have good luck with it when you put it in your properties in the market.
Yeah, check out Houzz.com. That's HOUZZ.com for those great website to get ideas. The number here is 855-5-AIRWAVES, or you can visit realestateairwaves.com. The first 50 people to contact us will be getting a copy of the rehab estimator that we use. We'll see you soon.
Mortgage rates are still near historic lows. If you're looking to buy your first home, upgrade, downsize, invest, or refinance, contact Matthew Ewald from Draper & Kramer Mortgage Corp. Matthew has been a trusted mortgage consultant for over 13 years and has options to fit your unique needs. With 40-plus investors, call Matthew today at 630-376-0484. That's 630-376-0484. Or apply online at mortgagechicagoland.com. Company NMLS 2551, NMLS 198323, Illinois Residential Mortgage Licensee, Equal Housing Lender.
If you want to do real estate deals, you need to learn the systems. Visit fliptoriches.com for info on workshops happening the first Tuesday of every month. Meet me, Joshua Ingalls, and other active real estate investors in the Chicagoland area. We give the most value possible with networking and information for new and seasoned investors. We meet the first Tuesday of every month at 3009 North Kedzie in Chicago at 6 p.m. Check out fliptoriches.com. That's fliptoriches.com for all the info now.
Need capital for your real estate investment? Let Barnett Real Estate Investment Finance be your partner for fast, flexible, and certain capital. Since 2008, they've funded millions of home flippers, landlords, auction buyers, wholesalers, and more. And they'd like their next deal to be with you. Submit your preliminary application now at barnettcapital.com/prelim or call them at 224-205-7266. Again, that's 224-205-7266.
AM 560, The Answer. It's all about making money with real estate. Now, back to Real Estate Airwaves on AM 560, The Answer.
So now you've answered the question of what construction should you do on the property. The next step in getting to your estimation of the cost is going to be to build an actual scope of work where you kind of compile these items and build up a structure for you to put the numbers in. So what items actually go into a scope of work? This will be part of the calculator that we're going to send to you, and it's sort of a general thing that you'll be able to edit. But here we're going to go through each of the high level items. So you can largely put these into three big buckets. You know, you've got the exterior items, you've got the interior items, and you got sort of general items that kind of apply either way. So let's just dive right into exterior. So kind of the first item typically considered exterior is the foundation. Now, I know that ends up under the house and, not necessarily wholly exterior, but it is kind of facing out in the dirt. It's basically what your house sits on. So if it's a ranch, it's generally going to be a pad of concrete. And if it's a house with a basement, then it's going to be a poured concrete foundation for the basement typically. Now, older houses have other things. We've seen row homes in Philadelphia with foundations made of stone. You can literally see the stone in the walls when you go in the basement. But that's the first item to think about. Next one is going to be water. Do you need new water service? Do you need a septic system? How do you connect to the public water? So the kind of getting water from whatever external source to and from whatever external source for water intake and liquid disposal is the item that is going to be called water on a scope of work for exterior items.
Yeah, here in Chicago, if you want to do a new water service and if you're adding bathrooms to the home, that can be a $15,000 line item. So you need to make sure if you're adding bathrooms that you build that into your scope of work, because you might get bids from contractors who aren't including that. So when I get bids from contractors, I'm like, is this including a new water service and a newer sewer system? So having these things on your scope is very, very important. Things like if you need a new garage, what are you going to do with the landscaping? A lot of times I can just do a rough drawing on a napkin of what I'm looking for in a landscaping, but put it in your scope of work, make it nice. You can actually freehand draw it for the most part with landscaping. You can use software. What are you going to do with the driveway? New driveway, is it going to be asphalt? Is it going to be concrete? There's cost differences there. What about the roof? What are you going to do with the roof? This all needs to be laid out for the contractor so you can compare apples to apples when you're getting bids. What about the gutters? What about maybe you're going to paint the siding and not replace it? New windows, doors, decks, patios, and porches. These are all things you need to specify. How big is the deck that I'm looking for on the back of the home? This all needs to be specified in this scope of work, very detailed. I'm looking for a 10 by 10 deck because a 10 by 10 deck is going to be a different cost than a 10 by 20 deck. So having those things outlined in your scope of work is very important for the exterior.
So then we dive into the interior. First big item is going to be your HVAC, your heating, ventilation, and your air conditioning. Typically you're running some sort of feed to get the air through the house, and that's got to come in early in your process, and that's something that you're going to want to bid out with your contractor. Make sure they have that all covered. Then you've got plumbing, naturally just running the pipes through the house. You've got electrical lighting, all sorts of, from the wiring in the house to the ultimate fixtures that you're going to be installing throughout the house. You're going to have can lighting in the house. These kinds of questions would be encapsulated there. Framing, where the wall is going to be. Insulation, are you going to have insulation on all the exterior walls, any interior walls? Are you going to have soundproofing insulation? You're going to have anything along those lines that's in the market for your property. Drywall, putting up the wall, sheetrock. Paint, doors, trim, and other carpentry. So, are you going to have any sort of carpentry sizzle feature? Sometimes people put built-in shelves. These are things that are popular in the market in some places. Then you go to flooring. Now you kind of got to look over the whole house because you're going to have different flooring in different rooms. Do you have any rooms that are going to be carpet? What's your square footage on that? What's your labor costs on that? What the hardwood floors? Where are you going to have hardwood? And you might have, if you're at a cheaper price point, maybe you're using something less than hardwood. Maybe using some sort of manufactured material. Tile. What rooms are going to have tile? So all of those are sort of covered by a flooring line item to see where you're going to be installing each of those types of flooring. Then you've got appliances. How many appliances are you installing? Which appliances are you installing? And what price point are each of those going to be at? Cabinets. You'll have cabinets in the kitchen. You'll have cabinets in bathrooms. And sometimes they're even installed in certain other places.
Yeah, the thing that I want to do when I create my scope of work is literally outline room by room what needs to get done in every room. Because if you leave it up to someone's imagination or you don't specify it in writing, they might not do what you're expecting. Or even worse, you might get what are called change orders, which should be a 4-letter word because change orders you could go from a deal where you're going to make $40,000 and now you've had $50,000 in change orders because you didn't specify you wanted a new water and sewer service. You didn't specify the fact that you wanted to dig down the basement and do underpinning. These are all things that need to be addressed on your scope of work. Great website that you can go to choose a lot of your materials is Home Depot's website. So I'm specifying the exact tile that I want on my kitchen floors. And what's great about Home Depot's websites is all of their tiles and all of their things are actually ranked online. So I usually like buying things that are 4 stars or better and things that are in stock that the contractor can go to Home Depot and readily pick that up. So I'm outlining what's the tile, what's the SKU number, how much does that tile cost, what's the backsplash, how much does that cost per square foot, what's the SKU number, use this vanity in this bathroom, how much does that vanity cost. These, because what you don't want to happen is where they install a $50 vanity in a $1 million house where you need to be installing a $1,000 plus vanity. So you need to specify each of these, especially what I call the trim features. You need to have that specified in your scope of work And breaking it down room by room can help you. So, for example, master bedroom, master bathroom, shared bathroom, powder room, kitchen, bedroom 1, bedroom 2, bedroom 3, basement, utility room. You're really not leaving anything up for interpretation. You're giving them exactly what you want in each room.
Yeah, and you really want them to sign the thing that you create. Sometimes I see them rework it, and then you've got to go through line by line and see if they've included each item there. You want to avoid that. So Josh already touched on the last two items of the interior, which is the kitchen and the bathroom. So that's going to include your fixtures, your countertops, your vanity, exactly the kinds of things that Josh is talking about specifying. So then we move away from exterior and interior and kind of get into general things that sort of apply to any part of the property. So, one of those is going to be plans and permits. If you're doing a light carpet and paint rehab, maybe you don't need any of those at all. If you're doing a bigger renovation, if you're adding an addition, or of course, if you're doing new construction, you're going to need those. So you need to build in the cost of those. Demolition dumpsters, this is going to be at the early phase of the property when you're clearing out the old stuff to bring in the new. You're going to need someone to come in there, do your demo work, and you're going to need to rent dumpsters to clear out the debris. Then you've got the question of, is there any type of remediation that's needed? Is there mold? Is there termite damage? Does asbestos or something of that nature need to be removed? That's something that kind of needs to be built in there. And then, of course, there's the catch-all miscellaneous. So that's anything that you couldn't fit elsewhere in the list. You include there sort of anything that's outside of the box, little things that kind of aren't the norm, but you need to get done on a particular property.
Yeah, what I like to do after I create a scope of work is actually walk it with your contractor or different contractors, and they're going to walk it with them with the scope before you award any bids, because they're going to ask, well, hey, what about the ridge vent there on the roof? Does that need to be addressed? Well, you might not have thought of that initially, but it does. So what I like doing is making revisions to the scope of work. And then when I get the final bids from all my contractors, I make sure they're all bidding on the very same exact things. So I take all their suggestions and add them to my scope, and then I send that out to everyone, and I highlight the changes that we made on that initial scope to make sure that they are including that on your bid. Again, you want to compare bids apples to apples, and you want to specify what you want in each room and really, really have a detailed scope of work. This is the foundation of the construction process. The number here is 855-5-AIRWAVES, or you can visit realestateairwaves.com. The first 50 people to contact us will be getting a copy of the rehab estimator that we use to estimate repairs. We'll see you soon.
You're an investor, a lender in commercial real estate, or you're an attorney, and you use a title company. National Title Solutions wants a chance to be your title company. Give them a shot at your business, and you'll find out why they're the best choice. Most title companies keep banking hours and have no flexibility. National Title Solutions will do whatever it takes on your timetable. You'll save money, too. Give them an opportunity and see the difference. Convenient offices all over. National Title Solutions. Call 800-NTS-2700. 800-NTS-2700. Mortgage rates are still near historic lows. If you're looking to buy your first home, upgrade, downsize, invest, or refinance, contact Matthew Ewald from Draper & Kramer Mortgage Corp. Matthew has been a trusted mortgage consultant for over 13 years and has options to fit your unique needs. With 40-plus investors, call Matthew today at 630-376-0484. That's 630-376-0484. Or apply online at mortgagechicagoland.com. Company NMLS 2551, NMLS 198323, Illinois Residential Mortgage Licensee, Equal Housing Lender.
The Chicagoland Real Estate Investment Group invites you to build your network in real estate investing and learn from the region's experts. There's no charge to attend, and there won't be any hard sell for expensive courses. Join us on the fourth Monday each month in the North Shore. For more information, visit us at meetup.com/ChicagolandREI. Again, that's meetup.com/ChicagolandREI. Meetup.com/ChicagolandREI.
Need capital for your real estate investment? Let Barnett Real Estate Investment Finance be your partner for fast, flexible, and certain capital. Since 2008, they've funded millions of home flippers, landlords, auction buyers, wholesalers, and more. And they'd like their next deal to be with you. Submit your preliminary application now at barnettcapital.com/prelim. or call them at 224-205-7266. Again, that's 224-205-7266.
AM 560, The Answer. Now, back to the show that gives you the insider info. Real Estate Airwaves on AM 560, The Answer.
So today we are talking about estimating construction costs, and our giveaway today is going to be an actual construction cost estimator. Call us at 855-5-AIRWAVES or visit our website, realestateairwaves.com. If you're one of the first 50 people to contact us, you will be getting that calculator. So we've spoken so far about which things you want to do to the property. We've spoken about how you actually kind of generate a list of that. Now we actually got to get into the numbers. How much are each of these items going to cost? And there's no simple answer for this. Each line item in your scope of work will vary from market to market. Each item can be thought of as materials plus labor. Labor, for example, can vary greatly depending on what market you're in the U.S. South and Southwest tend to have cheaper labor than the Northwest or the Northeast and the Midwest. You'll need to kind of feel this out in your particular market. A good way to do this might be by networking. You go to networking events and people can help you figure that out. You find someone who's willing to kind of sit down with you. Maybe you buy them lunch and pick their brain, and they'll let you kind of get rolling with that. But as you get going, you'll start to get a good feel for how much each item can be. So you'll want to take these items and break them down into materials and labor. If you see a contractor coming in high on materials, you can opt to buy it yourself. You can just go to the Home Depot website, and if you tally it up to be $700 and they're charging you $1,000, well, they're tacking on $300 there. So you can save money by doing that yourself. By having them break it down into materials and labor, this will make it easy to compare different contractors' labor costs. You can think of it, the material should largely be a fixed cost regardless of which contractor you're using. And it will really let you do an apples-to-apples comparison.
Yeah, some things are going to be easier to compare than others. For example, if the house, let's just say, needs 20 windows, this is something you can, we talked about the scope of work earlier. This is something you want to specify in your scope of work. Hey, I'm wanting 20 new vinyl windows, low E glass. You're not going to be able to necessarily specify how many screws it's going to take to put up the drywall. So these are different things that you can specify. The easier things like windows, doors, these are things that you can build into your scope of work, but some of these other things are going to be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, so you're really striking a balance between what you can really quantify and convenience. If it's easy to quantify, you should. So the window is a great example. It's easy to count the number of windows. It's not so easy to count the number of screws. So you don't want to get into that level of detail. I don't know if contractors are going to work with you if you're telling them that you get to use 200 screws or something like that. When it's easy to quantify, you can actually look up the materials yourself pretty easily. You can go see, how much do these windows cost? When it's harder to quantify specifically, you're just going to want to use, estimates. You may need to work with a contractor to get these estimates because, let's say you're talking about drywalling. You don't know. It may be hard to figure out the cost of, what is the spackle cost and what do the screws cost and, how many, all these different factors that go into it, the little side things that aren't quite as easy to quantify. It may be helpful to work with a contractor to actually pin down those numbers.
Yeah, you can, a lot of times if you're talking to somebody who does drywall, how much does it cost per sheet? So you can kind of be on the same language sometimes as the contractors. So how much is it going to cost for each sheet to be hung, taped, mudded, and sanded? And then that way you're getting an apples to apples cost. Notice I didn't say primed, I didn't say painted. I just said hung, taped, mudded, sanded. So it's a smooth finish. How much would that cost you per sheet? Or if you're talking to a roofer, how much do you charge per square? This project is 20 squares. Sometimes if you can learn that lingo, you can also get your pricing down a little bit, but you are going to have to network with contractors and do a little bit of research. And most importantly, when you're coming up with your scope of work and you're estimating your repairs, depending on the size of the job, if it's a really old house, I'm going to give myself a bigger contingency. If the house was built in 2000 And 10, I really don't need a very big contingency number because probably for the most part, the house is going to be in better shape and there's not going to be as many unknowns.
Yeah, when you're doing a rehab, the unexpected is expected. And the older the property is, the more likely that the unexpected is expected. So that's why you adjust the contingency amount depending on the age. We've mentioned before water service. We've had borrowers who are going through, and midway through the process, they discovered that they needed new water service. The village came in and told that to them even after they had approved permits previous to that. So, you kind of run into things like that are surprising. We had another borrower who had a rehab planned, but termite damage ended up being so significant when they ripped open the walls that property became a new construction plan. So you can have contingencies that are fairly reasonable to extreme. That deal ended up working out for them just because it's the way the numbers played out. But, something like that can be a challenge to overcome when putting together a rehab budget.
Yeah, like Vince said, expecting the unexpected is very important. We even did a project where it was a 3-bathroom home, and we actually converted it to a 2.5-bathroom home, and the city still made us upgrade the water service. So expect the unexpected. The number here is 855-5-AIRWAVES, or you can visit realestateairwaves.com. The first 50 people to contact us will be getting a copy of the rehab estimator we use to estimate repairs. We'll see you soon.
Real estate agents are cheap. Many agents will only market your home on the MLS and put a sign up. Demand more. Joshua Ingalls invests in aggressive marketing, including high-def video, 3D virtual tours, professional photography, a custom website, and mailers, so you can get the most amount of money for your home in the shortest amount of time. Call Joshua Ingalls, broker with United Real Estate Chicago, at 630-544-1504 for a free home valuation, or visit HomeTeamIL.com to learn more.
Need capital for your real estate investment? Let Barnett Real Estate Investment Finance be your partner for fast, flexible, and certain capital. Since 2008, they've funded millions of home flippers, landlords, auction buyers, wholesalers, and more. And they'd like their next deal to be with you. Submit your preliminary application now at barnettcapital.com/prelim or call them at 224-205-7266. Again, that's 224-205-7266.
AM 560, The Answer. Now, back to the show with real estate info you won't find anywhere else. Real Estate Airwaves is on AM 560, The Answer.
Welcome back. Today we are talking about estimating repairs for your rehab business. The number here is 855-5-AIRWAVES, or you can visit realestateairwaves.com. The first 50 people to contact us will be getting a copy of the rehab estimator we use to estimate repairs. And why having this estimator is so important to you and your business is this will allow you to confidently walk in a home and literally go down the line item by line item. Does it need windows? Okay, it needs this many windows. Will each window cost this much? Does it need a new furnace? Well, a furnace will cost this much. Does it need a new air conditioner? Well, an air conditioner is going to cost this much. Does it need a new electrical panel? Well, we've already created those numbers for you. So now, even if you've never done a real estate deal, by using this rehab estimator, you can confidently walk in, fill that estimator out, and be able to get a pretty good grasp of how much that job is going to cost to do the construction. So I really, really highly encourage you to contact us. Again, that number is 855-5-AIRWAVES, or visit realestateairwaves.com. This is an extremely valuable resource I use in my business every time that I look at a property.
One last thing we want to touch on in the process of estimating costs is the risk of underbuilding and overbuilding. We touched on this briefly when we were talking about what you actually want to do to the property, but we want to dive into it with a little more detail. So underbuilding, of course, is when you don't match comparable properties selling at that price point that you want. So you want to sell a property for $200,000. at 200 grand, they all have X, Y, and Z. They all have these same things. And you say, you know what, I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to do a little bit less than each of those. The result is that you're probably not going to be able to reach that price point. When you're thinking you want to get 200, but you're doing things that are less than what's in that 200 price point, you're just not going to get there. The other issue is it's often going to take longer to sell. If you're thinking, hey, I want 200 and I think I can still sell it at 200 even though I'm, cutting a few corners here, the reality is probably going to be that you're going to sit on that property for a longer time. People are going to go there and, they're going to recognize the corners you cut. And, it's interesting to see how often this plays out in the market. We've got an example from one of our borrowers, and they're struggling with a property right now. And, to dive into that specific example a bit, the property, a property with a garage, with a second-story bathroom, and with appliances already installed will go for about $200K. The broker actually listed it at that price point at the start, and very predictably, without those features, it sat. And they chopped the price again and again, 190, 180, 170, 160. And it was still sitting even at 160. By that point, it was on the market. It kind of became damaged goods. People knew it was sitting there for a long time. Maybe they didn't know what was wrong with it, but they knew something was there. And it was really just that it was missing the key items that the market was demanding. So, it's got this stigma now, and it's going to be a struggle to sell because it didn't quite meet the comps.
You can also go on the other end of the spectrum and do what's overbuilding or overdoing it, and I'm very guilty of this. So you're doing what the comps are doing, but you're going way above and beyond. I've got an example that comes to mind that I did this. It was 2 properties in Hoffman Estates. It's in a very specific neighborhood in Hoffman Estates, and there the houses sell right around $200,000. I believe they sold right around $190,000. One of the houses, we went all out, and we decked this thing out, brand new cabinets, 42-inch cabinets, super high-end travertine tile. We did it really, really nice. And that property sold for $190,000. And then we had another property, which we said, well, why don't we hold on to this one? So we'll just do a rental quality. We left the tile that was there. We left the cabinets. We just painted them. We spent, I would say, almost half of what we spent on this other house. And we ended up changing our minds and actually selling it. And we sold it for the exact same price as the house. We went all out and did it to the tens. And so I learned a very valuable lesson. We made an extra $20K on that deal because we didn't have to do all that stuff. So sometimes you get this idea that, oh, well, if I do this and this and this and this, I'm going to be able to sell it for this super high amount. And the reality is do what the comps show.
Yeah, so the big issue that's playing out there is, most buyers will use residential mortgage lenders to finance the purchase. And those lenders are going to lend based off of an appraised value. Appraisers are generally unwilling to appraise much above comps, if at all. So if you need to sell above comps to break even, you're excluding a large pool of finance buyers. And it's questionable whether it's even possible at all. So you really need to focus on building specifically to those comps. Where this comes in when we're reviewing borrowers' properties, they'll come in with a budget and we'll see what the comps look like, and their budget is extra large. And so we get on the phone with them and say, why is this budget so large? And they tell us, oh, if I can do these things, I know I can sell it for more. And, we basically tell them the data does not support what you're saying. And so the typical resolution of that is they just draw it back and, they get in line with the comps. And we see this happen multiple times, and the deals end up playing out well once they do. Yeah,
so you gotta walk that fine line between under rehabbing, which I suggest you never want to do, and over rehabbing. Again, if you could just put those small little sizzle features that might cost a couple $100, but will help you sell it quicker, those are the things you should do. You don't have to go all out sometimes if the comps show that. The number here is 855-5-AIRWAVES, or you can visit realestateairwaves.com. The first 50 people to contact us will be getting a copy of that rehab estimator that you can use to confidently estimate repairs on your next rehab project. We'll see you soon.
You're an investor, a lender in commercial real estate, or you're an attorney, and you use a title company. National Title Solutions wants a chance to be your title company. Give them a shot at your business, and you'll find out why they're the best choice. Most title companies keep banking hours and have no flexibility. National Title Solutions will do whatever it takes on your timetable. You'll save money, too. Give them an opportunity and see the difference. Convenient offices all over. National Title Solutions. Call 800-NTS-2700. 800-NTS-2700.
Need capital for your real estate investment? Let Barnett Real Estate Investment Finance be your partner for fast, flexible, and certain capital. Since 2008, they've funded millions of home flippers, landlords, auction buyers, wholesalers, and more. And they'd like their next deal to be with you. Submit your preliminary application now at barnettcapital.com/prelim or call them at 224-205-7266. Again, that's 224-205-7266.
AM 560, The Answer. It's all about making money with real estate. Now, back to Real Estate Airwaves on AM 560, The Answer.
Today we are talking about estimating construction costs. And our giveaway today is a construction cost estimator that will make it easy for you, new investor or not, to estimate your construction costs. That will be made available to the first 50 people to contact us at 855-5-AIRWAVES or at realestateairwaves.com. So we started the show today talking about what construction should you actually do and how do you make that determination. You make it by looking at what's in the comps, and that can be done via the website, pictures you can find on websites, the MLS and other websites, or it can be done by actually visiting the properties and really figuring out what is selling at the price point you want to sell at. We then went into actually taking that information and building a scope of work. And this will be all listed out. These line items that we talked about will all be listed out in that calculator that we're giving away today. We then went into actually calculating how much, dividing into materials and labor, dividing into different rooms, specifying which items you want. So you can really kind of dig into the cost that you're going to expect to see from contractors. We spoke about how labor can vary market to market, and you've kind of got to dig in. And by splitting it materials and labor, you'll be able to easily see which contractors are providing you the better price. We talked about the differences between underbuilding and overbuilding. You know, doing too little for the comps that you're aiming for and how that can cause big problems in terms of hitting the price you want to hit, making the property sit on the market, and you can get the stigma attached to your property of a property that's been sitting on the market. People will suspect, and brokers will suspect, that there's some issue, even if they're not sure what it is, because you've been sitting on the market for a long time and you keep needing to cut the price. And lastly, we covered overbuilding, where we talked about how you don't want to go beyond your standard comp. You know, Josh gave a great example where he was in one market with two properties. One, he built up a lot and did a lot of great work in there. And the other one, he did a rental finish and then decided to sell at the last minute. And they both sold for the same price. One, he made 20 grand more, and one, he made 20 grand less. So that's the problem with overbuilding. You may sell it quicker, but you know, you're going to struggle to hit the price point that you're aiming to hit.
Yeah, you want to match what that neighborhood is specifically doing. It's so important. And again, having this construction cost estimator that you can use in your business is really going to help you. You know, I don't care if you've never done a deal before. You have the spreadsheet out on your tablet and you just literally, how many windows does it need? Does it need a furnace? Does it need a new roof? How big is the house? And it'll kind of give you that number there. Does it need new vinyl siding? These things will help you confidently walk into a house and help you decide whether this is a good deal or it's not a good deal. Maybe you use that estimator and the repairs. You thought it was only going to be a $20K rehab, when in fact, after you run the numbers through the estimator and looking at the comps and everything you need to do, it's more like a $50,000 rehab. Well, now you can go with confidence with this estimator. I really hope that Vince and I would like to meet you. We're going to be at 3009 North Kedzie in Chicago on February the 7th. You can visit fliptoriches.com to learn more about that meeting. We meet at 6 o'clock p.m. We want to thank you so much for tuning in. The number here is 855-5-AIRWAVES, or you can visit realestateairwaves.com. The first 50 people to contact us will be getting a copy of that rehab estimator that we use in our business to confidently estimate repairs. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Real Estate Airwaves on AM 560, The Answer. Come back next Sunday at noon for more insider real estate information from Joshua and Vincent. You can listen to past shows, contact them, and get free exclusive content at realestateairwaves.com. That's realestateairwaves.com.